Putin is continuing to advance into Korea.
When did we beat Japan at anything?
To disperse with 30 bullets within half a second. 30 magazine clip in half a second.
Right now, if you Google the word idiot, a picture of Donald Trump comes up. I just did that.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Political Circus Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Mike Ursery, and I am tired. I don't mean that like a lack of sleep tired. No, I mean I am exhausted and I am worn out. And the reason for that is because I have a busy weekend that caps off a busy week. And I am sitting here recording this episode on a Friday evening, and you're presumably listening to this on Saturday because that is when this episode is released. New one comes out every Saturday. And before sitting down to record this on Friday, I spent all day outside in the heat. I probably mentioned what my big kid job is on this podcast before. If I never did, or if maybe you just don't remember, I'll refresh your memory. I am a sports writer, and right now I work as a sports editor at a newspaper in Missouri. Being the sports editor means that I am in charge of the sports staff. It's a staff of one, and I cover 5 different high schools and also cover a college, so 6 schools in all. And right now we are in the middle of May, and that means that, well, for most places around the country, at least, school is coming to an end. If it's not already out, it will be out very soon for a lot of places around the country. Some schools around the country go until June. Did you all know that? I don't understand that. Like, they start around the beginning of September, and then they end around the beginning of June. I don't know why they do that. Why don't they start around the middle of August and they'll be done around the middle of May? You know, because the summer season, and I'm not talking about the summer solstice, no, I'm talking about the summer vacation season. It starts with Memorial Day. That's when the pools open up. That's when the water parks open up. That's when people begin traveling for the summer. That's when parents begin sending their kids off to camp for a week so they can have a break. No, I'm kidding. Unless maybe they really do that. I don't know. But then you have some of these schools that go until the beginning of June. And I don't mean like June 1st or June 2nd. I'm talking about like well into the second week of June, like maybe like early in the second week of June. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Where I live, anyway, school ends around the middle of May. And with school ending, it means that the spring sports seasons for high schools are also coming to an end. I'm all done with baseball. During the spring, I cover baseball and I cover boys and girls track and field. And I'm all done with baseball. And this weekend, I am covering the high school state track and field championships. And all 5 high schools that I cover are represented. I had to drive about 45 minutes to get there, maybe closer to an hour. And from 9:30 a.m. until 5:30 p.m., I was out watching people run and jump and throw things. And it got up to about 90 degrees today. And it hasn't been that hot all year. Like coming into around mid-April and May, it got warm, like upper 70s. It might have cracked 80, but now it's getting up to 90. And while I am very grateful because for it being warm, because I'm sure you heard me months ago on this podcast complain about how much I hate winter. While I'm very grateful for it being warm, it hasn't been this warm all year. And I spent outside all day in that. There was some shade. And I had my sunblock so I didn't burn. And I was also drinking water because you got to stay hydrated. If you don't, you're asking for a bad time, especially when it's 90 degrees. You're asking for a very bad day. I was outside all day in that, and it just drained me. I feel drained. I feel tired. I'm feeling pretty sluggish, but I'm here and I'm going to man up and record this. Yes, I did say man up. I'm going to do this episode. We're going to get through it. I'm here on my couch in my living room. I smell like sweat and sunblock, but I'm going to record this thing and I'm going to finish it, and hopefully you all enjoy it. I mean, I keep getting listens every single week, so I assume you all are enjoying this each week. At least I hope. You know, along with having a busy week at work, outside of work, one of the things that I do, and I do this each week. I'll give you a little insight into how I prepare this. I will go through and look at the news, and I will look at all the current events for really like the most recent, so from the previous week. And I go through and when I'm trying to think of topics and decide what to talk about each week, I go through and I try to talk about either the most relevant or the most ridiculous. The show is called Political Circus. So that's what I do. Sometimes the most ridiculous is the most relevant. And we've seen that a few times. Either it's the left floating some kind of conspiracy theory, or maybe it's just Donald Trump opening his mouth. Sometimes you look at the most relevant topics in the news each week and you just kind of look down and shake your head and do a face palm, and you just say to yourself, get me off this planet. So I have different sources that I go to for news, but on top of that, I also take to Twitter, because that's where a lot of journalists are reporting news. That's where a lot of people are talking about the news, and I just want to see what's going on. Looking at Twitter this week has been nothing short of exhausting. I'm sure you have been keeping up. If you have been on Twitter, I'm sure you've seen a lot of back and forth about, yes, here we are once again talking about the issue of abortion because of what happened in Alabama and also what's going on in Missouri. Alabama passed and signed one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country. And Missouri, while not as restrictive, they still followed suit. What happened in Alabama was called the Alabama Human Life Protection Act. It was passed overwhelmingly by the Alabama legislature, and then Alabama's governor, Kay Ivey, yes, who is a woman, but somehow is still part of the patriarchy, if you were to listen to feminists, which you probably don't because you have common sense. She signed it into law. And what this bill says is relating to abortion, to make abortion and attempted abortion felony offenses, except in cases where abortion is necessary in order to prevent a serious health risk to the unborn child's mother, to provide that a woman who receives an abortion will not be held criminally culpable or civilly liable for receiving the abortion, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of Amendment 621 of the Constitution of Alabama of 1901, now appearing as Section 111.05 of the official recompilation of the Constitution of Alabama of 1901 as amended. And what this means is, what Alabama has passed means that if a woman were to get an abortion in the state, when this becomes effective, it won't become effective for another 6 months. 6 months from now is when this law goes into effect. But meaning that if a woman were to get an abortion in the state of Alabama, she would not be held criminally liable. However, the physician who does the abortion would be held liable and would be prosecuted. So an actual abortion, meaning that they went through, did it correctly, the abortion is complete, would be treated as a Class A felony. A botched abortion, meaning attempted but not done correctly, would be treated as a Class C felony. Oh, and the restrict part of it is meaning that after 6 weeks. So after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks, she cannot have an abortion. And like 6 weeks is around the time whenever you can hear a heartbeat. So after 6 weeks, no abortions if you live in Alabama. Other states have done some type of abortion bans as well, but Alabama has been getting a lot of attention this week because this one is by far the most restrictive, not just because of the whole 6 week thing, but also because they're talking about a doctor who performs an abortion could get 99 years in prison. Now, if that is really the case, I would hope that Alabama would just say that every single person accused and convicted of homicide receives a mandatory 99-year prison sentence. I would hope the 99-year thing is not just for doctors performing abortions, because that just sounds ridiculous. No matter where you stand on the abortion issue, that sounds completely ridiculous. And in Missouri, the most updated thing I'd heard is that the Missouri Senate had passed a similar bill, but it would restrict abortions after 8 weeks, and they were talking about doctors receiving 5 to 15 years if they perform an abortion. And we're still waiting for that one to be signed by Missouri's governor. I also, at the time of this, hadn't seen if the Missouri House had even passed this. They were supposed to pass it today, but I have not seen yet that they have. Actually, wait, I'm looking at the news right now, as a matter of fact. The House did pass it, and now it is going to Mike Parsons' desk. I don't know when he is going to sign that, but from what I've seen, he is expected to sign that. So after Alabama signs a restrictive abortion bill into law, Missouri is set to do the same thing. Now, while I am talking about abortion here, I am not here to argue about whether or not abortion is morally right on this episode. I have tried to have that argument with people. Okay, look, I'll go ahead and disclose this. I am pro-life. I am against abortion. But, you know, I could sit, like, especially going on Twitter or anywhere else on the internet, I could sit and try to argue with people about abortion. I could also sit and bang my head against a wall for an hour and get the same effect. I used to do that. Argue abortion, I mean, not bang my head against the wall. I used to argue about abortion with people, and I just stopped doing it. It is exhausting. It is non-productive, and I just stopped doing it. What I'm here to talk about on this episode, I'm here to talk about just some of the ridiculous things that I've seen this week and even last week. Oh my gosh. So I'm sure I'll go ahead and start off with this one. I'm sure you saw the thing about the model posing nude to protest Alabama's abortion law. Yes, a model named Emily Radikowski posted a nude photo of herself on her Instagram account to protest Alabama's abortion law. And she wrote, "This week, 25 old white men voted to ban abortion in Alabama, even in cases of incest and rape. These men in power are imposing their wills onto the bodies of women in order to uphold the patriarchy," but it was signed by a woman, "and perpetuate the industrial prison complex by preventing women of low economic opportunity the right to choose to not reproduce. The states trying to ban abortion are the states that have the highest proportions of black women living there. This is about class and race and is a direct attack on the fundamental human rights women in the U.S. deserve and are protected by under Roe v. Wade. Our bodies, our choice." And in the photo, she has a pink leaf over her crotch, and then she is covering up her boobs with her hand. So I understand the whole point of this. She is protesting this, and she is drawing attention. Unfortunately, this did not go the way she planned, I am sure, because yes, this photo and the story behind it went viral rather quickly. But you have to understand that people are not talking about her abortion protest. No, people are talking about her photo. And, you know, if you're going to protest abortion or anything else, and you're going to direct your protest at men, and you're a woman, posing nude is probably not the way to go. you're probably not going to get the result that you're looking for by doing that. Probably not the way to go, because so many people made jokes about this. But, you know, as silly as that one was, that was not the worst thing that I've seen this week. No, the worst thing I've seen this week, actually it started last week, it's carried on into this week. Why Alyssa Milano still has a platform, and why people still not only allow her to have a platform, but listen to her, and really listening to her is allowing her to have a platform. Why people listen to her and why people support her ideas is beyond me, because, my gosh, Alyssa Milano, please just stop. Seriously, just stop. You have made a clown of yourself so many times. Please just stop. So last week, Alyssa Milano had proposed that women to protest abortion until these states with restrictive abortion laws repeal them and women have rights over their own bodies, because we still argue about that. Until they have rights over their own bodies and everything, women should go on a sex strike. Yes, women should restrict sex from men. This is proposed by Alyssa Milano. She got dragged almost instantly for this idea. And this wasn't just because people like making fun of Alyssa Milano. No, this is because what she proposed was incredibly stupid. First of all, pro-life people were so quick to point out that if you don't have sex, there's no need for abortions. Not really just if you don't have sex, period, but if you don't have sex at a time when you're not trying to have a child, there's no need for abortion. So people were really quick to jump on that and basically saying, well, look at that. Look, okay, she's telling people to practice abstinence, which is, 100% effective in preventing the need for abortion. And, oh, look, this is only what we've been saying the whole time. And now she's telling people to do it. Yeah, she basically made their point for them. On the other hand, what she also did was she made it seem like, and people were quick to point this one out as well, she made it seem like as if the only purpose that women serve is to make themselves available to have sex with men. And she got dragged by other feminists. Like, other prominent feminists in the country came out against this. They came out and told her she was wrong for this. And she was wrong for that. From like the people who are telling her that she's wrong on this, they're absolutely right, because she makes it seem like women are only submitting to men by having sex with them, or this is like their role, or this is like a gift to men. That's not the case. No, that is definitely not the case. I'm not going to sit here and talk about sex, but that I can tell you, though, that is not the case. Women have sex with men because they enjoy sex, not because they're submitting or because they're gifting or anything else. And you have to understand that while Milano and Radikowski might think that they're doing something very progressive, they might think that what they're doing is effective, it's really not. And now I'm not just picking on these two, because really everyone who is yelling back and forth at each other on the abortion issue, you are doing nothing. By arguing with each other, you are doing absolutely nothing to solve this. Look, there are people who think that abortion is murder. There are people who think that abortion is healthcare. There are people who think that women have control over their own bodies, and they lose that control if you restrict abortion. There are people who think that an abortion is a violation of the child's right to life, because the Declaration of Independence says that we all have certain rights, those being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So people make the argument that you are denying a child the right to life by having an abortion. And I'm not not going to say who's right. I'm not going to say who's wrong, because then I would just kind of be going against what I'm saying here. All I'm going to say is stop fighting, please, for my sanity and for the sanity of everyone else, and even for your own sanity. Stop fighting. All right. If people want to have a discussion on abortion, great. Yeah. We should have a very broad, well, not a broad discussion, but a very open discussion about the issue of abortion. And look, there are people who are pro-life, whether the reasons be religious, whether the reasons be libertarian, because there are pro-life libertarians who are not religious, who are against abortion. There are religious people who are pro-choice. So people who say that this is a religious issue, it's really not. But that is one of the things that gets thrown into the argument, is about how this is a religious issue and evangelicals are trying to deny women rights over their own bodies. And I understand I might be kind of rambling here. That's because, like I said at the beginning, I'm tired. I'm also tired of talking about abortion. But, if people if people want to solve this, they got to be willing to have an actual discussion. Listen to the other side. Hear their argument. Hear their reasoning. Let them explain. And then you give your own argument. You give your own reason. And you explain all of that. That is called a discussion. It's also called a conversation. Not an argument, not a fight where people are just screaming at each other with their caps locks turned on, and to the point where they're calling each other names like, I don't know, names like cuck or Russian bot or whatever. I've seen a lot of garbage flung back and forth on Twitter. But, with these laws being passed, what I think this is, yes, these are being signed into law, but, people aren't just going to stand for this. This is going to get challenged. And these laws are eventually going to make their way to the Supreme Court. And really, I think that, Alabama actually said this, and Missouri probably has the same thing in mind. And some of these other states who have passed restrictive abortion laws, like Mississippi passed one recently, and some other states have also passed abortion laws. What this is, what this looks like, is a power move. It is a move to get the issue of abortion back before the Supreme Court. It gets Roe versus Wade back in front of the Supreme Court, and it gets the Supreme Court to hand down another ruling on abortion. With the Supreme Court the way that it is right now, is their stance going to be different than the Supreme Court stance when they handed down their decision on Roe v. Wade? Probably not. Look, of the justices who are on the Supreme Court right now, Clarence Thomas, I think, would vote to strike down abortion. He might be the only one. Maybe Neil Gorsuch. Neil Gorsuch is a conservative, but Neil Gorsuch is also a textualist. So maybe, well, let's just say for the sake of argument that Thomas and Gorsuch both vote to strike down abortion. That still leaves, well, let's see. Kavanaugh has already shared his opinions on abortion, saying that it is precedent. So Kavanaugh, I think, votes to uphold. Ruth Bader Ginsburg votes to uphold. John Roberts probably votes to uphold. And then the rest on the bench also vote to uphold. So you're looking at a 7-2 decision to uphold abortion. That is just the way that I see it. I could be wrong on that. I don't know. But at the same time, the Supreme Court is more conservative than it has been in years past. But at the same time, the Supreme Court has a lot of textualists on it. So I personally don't foresee this changing. Now what I personally would like to see is for abortion to be a state issue. Let the states decide on abortion themselves. And there was something that I put on Twitter And you can follow my political account on Twitter. I go by the Liberty Ginger. Yes, I know it sounds silly, but that is my moniker on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @GingerLiberty. And there was something that I tweeted the other night, and I got people agreeing with me. I also got people disagreeing with me. And what I had tweeted out was, my tweet said, if you don't like a law passed in another state, move there. Register to vote, vote in their elections. And what I'm saying by that is, if you don't like something that's passed in a state that you don't live in, and if you want to change the law in that state, move there and get politically active. Otherwise, stop. Look, if you don't live in that state, you have no control over what that state does. And you shouldn't. The voters in each respective state are the ones who theoretically have control over what each respective state does. So if you don't like something in another state, move there and get politically active and vote in that state. Otherwise, just stop. It'll be interesting going forward to see what happens with the laws being passed in these states. I'm not sure how soon Missouri's abortion law is going to be signed by Mike Parsons. It should be sometime soon. And how quickly this gets in front of the Supreme Court, that's also going to be interesting to watch. And are we going to have a new Supreme Court justice on the bench by the time this makes it? Because whenever Ruth Bader Ginsburg leaves the Supreme Court, however she leaves, I know there's a lot of people talking about that, you have to think that the next person to take her place is going to be Amy Coney Barrett. I haven't really looked into Amy Coney Barrett's stance on abortion. She is a conservative, so I'm going to assume that she is pro-life, but that doesn't mean that she is going to use her own opinions on abortion, meaning not her non-legal opinions on abortion, to make a decision on this. But this will be interesting to watch going forward, and no matter how this ends, whether abortion is upheld, abortion is struck down, abortion is ruled to be a state issue, no matter how this ends, people are going to be upset about it, and it's still not going to go away. There are a lot of other things about this issue that we can talk about, but I don't have time for that right now. I'm also so tired. Oh, I'm so tired. I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm probably going to bed because I got another long day the following day, that being Saturday, of watching people run and jump and throw things. But thank you for listening to this episode of the Political Circus Weekly Podcast. As I said before, I'm your host, Mike Ursery, and I will be back with another episode again next week. Thank you for listening.
Thing sucks.